Hey everyone, this is Dark Spidey TV, and you're watching the episode 22 Vendetta Part 1 commentary. Whew, that's a mouthful. I'm just going to call it the Vendetta Part 1 commentary. Okay, so as you can tell from this commentary and many others I've done in the past, I'm going over key episodes that I've done in the series, not just every single episode I've ever done ever, because that would take too long. And I'm going to do episodes that are just sort of boring to me. But I can make them exciting with my own commentary. It depends. If I run out of content for this channel, I'll definitely go back and do episodes that I haven't done before. I mean, heck, I might go back and redo commentaries I've already done just to get the message across better. Who knows? But let's just get on with the show and go over episode 22. Okay, as you can already tell, there is a soundtrack change. Now, this is the second episode in which I used Magic X Music Maker 16 as the main music editing program. And that's where I edited this opening credit sequence audio here, which I will probably release as a separate video. It's like one of the soundtrack videos in the soundtrack playlist on my other channel. Yeah, I never finished coloring Norman Osborn's eye color, because in the comic books, his eye color is blue, but my minifigure I've used for Norman Osborn has brown eyes. I don't know, maybe I was just confused, and I didn't finish coloring it in, which is strange given the amount of detail that's in this picture. Okay, so we open up this episode with Oscorp Industries during the evening, and he's showing the military all his new toys and everything. You can also see me, experimenting with particle illusion some more than I had in the past. So he's showing them the glider and the suit. He's describing to them all of the things the suit can do, which is like a little preview for all the fights that the Green Goblin's going to get into. Like he tells them what the suit is resistant to and what the glider can do, and that's like giving you a little sneak peek at what you're going to see later in the episodes or in future episodes. So Alan Ferguson, however you say his damn name, he wants to know more about the performance-enhancing drugs that Oscorp is developing. He wants to know what's wrong with it, and basically Norman Osborn wants a human test subject, but no one else is sure or think it's ethical for him to do so. And he says this could be the next Captain America, who exists in this world sometime in the past. And Alan Ferguson, yeah, he agrees to that, but he also says it could be the next Captain America, or it could be an abomination, which is which is me referencing. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. Which is me referencing the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, where that formula that was used on Captain America was reverse engineered or something and used on Abomination, and that turned him into a giant abomination, and that's what I was referencing at the time, but the audio kind of cut out when I was saying abomination. It was just going abomination, so it just sounds odd, especially with the echo effects too. I really wish I could clean up the audio in this video. Hold on a second. Also, I really love the set that I built here for some reason. I just like that set a lot. I mean, there's gaping holes, and you can see where the where the floor ended and the desk began. Okay, so this is a day later, and he's just like, you know what? I'm going to test it on myself. So he takes the Goblin formula out of the refrigerator or something, puts it in the coffee maker, and I thought I was being so clever. And he shows off his amazing pecs and abs. And Dr. Strom is obviously worried. He's like, what about your son? What if he loses his father or something? And Norman Osborn's like, I have to do this for the greater good and everything. So you can see how sympathetic Norman Osborn is in the beginning. He's kind of he wants this to work. He really does. And he's willing to put his own life on the line to see his dream come true, to see his legacy make a mark. He's willing to risk his own life and everything he's ever worked for that, to be remembered forever, even after he dies. So, as the machine starts up, you can actually hear the characters describing what is happening in the past, while at the same time I show them doing it in the future. My brain hurts. Okay, just forget I said any of that. I really do like the sets in these last two scenes. I kind of like the setup I have here. Looking back, the thing that spins around, the tube that attaches onto the chamber and releases all the gas that comes up from the floor, even though it came from the top of the chamber. So okay, the thing goes haywire, and he's passed out because that formula is a doozy, and he's not jerking him off. He's giving him CPR. Animating Legos giving CPR is very hard to do. Oh, okay, he's all right. I guess. Oh my God! And he says, "Help me." I don't know why I put that line in there. And he throws him into the computer. He lifts up the entire freaking chamber, and he throws it on top of Dr. Strom, who's already bleeding out. So, yeah. And if you actually watch this episode, listen to the music sounds absolutely just, oh God, that was a terrible blue screen effect. The music just sounds like ass. It is terrible. And the reason for that being is Magic X Music Maker 16, its instruments only work when played at a certain pace, at a certain tempo. If it's slow for a slow scene and whatnot, the instruments sound just fine, especially the string instruments they sound beautiful, especially for the price and how damn buggy the program is. It can play some string instruments pretty well. But for fast-paced scenes, I recommend using some of the techno, using some of the drums for that program. But I tried playing instruments like at a fast pace in this episode, and it just did not sound right at all. And once again, I'm showing that mirror that was in the Spider-Man movies, which some people said that was over the top, that was silly, that was stupid. Let me just go somewhere with the mirror thing, all right? Let me do it, all right? No one's actually told me that, but that's what I've heard. That's just honest criticism of Spider-Man movies. Now, I kind of like this scene. Now, disregard the fact that that's the same exact ship or aircraft that was used in episode 28. I did not know they've actually released a Lego Shield aircraft at the time. I would have bought it, but I already filmed the thing out of order, so it would have been weird if there was another aircraft instead of the one that was in the beginning of the episode. And if you listen, and the music in this scene was me trying to replicate the Inception music. Also, that's supposed to say class of 2010, not 2009. 2010, that's when Peter Parker graduated. I kind of like this. I like that angle right there. I really like that part. I took the camera and I placed it on the car and I held down the button. But before then, I set the camera to the setting where if you hold down the button, it repeatedly takes a picture. So I held down the button and I moved the car slowly down the Lego street, and that's how I created that effect. Now, the timeline of the show, it's sort of hard to put together. You know, it roughly takes place between 2007 and 2012. Roughly. But this definitely does not take place in 2009. That was a mistake I made. A huge banner that says, Reggie messed up. Dark Spidey 34 messed up big time, and here's a giant sign that says so. That's how I feel about that. It bothers me so much. I mean, there's other things wrong with this episode, but that really gets to me. Originally, the show was going to take place in the early... This is going to sound weird, but in 2007, it made a lot of sense. One, because I was 12. One, because I was 13. And two, because it was 2007, and the year was a lot closer than now. Originally, the show was going to take place in the early 2000s. Yeah, you guys didn't know that, did you? And Season 3 would take place in 2002. Which seems absurd, looking back, because that's 10 years ago. But like 5 years ago, it made sense, because that's half the time cut away. That made sense, but now that's just ridiculous. So, no, it does not take place in 2009. And of course, Peter Parker would be valedictorian. And I came up with this episode. I came up with this premise of Peter actually fighting crime during his graduation. I came up with it when I actually went to a family member's graduation a couple years before this episode. And that was actually 2007 when I came up with the idea. I'm like, you know what? If Peter Parker was at this graduation, would he be fighting crime? So I decided to put that in the episode. I was inspired by a graduation of a family member. And you ever notice all the TV shows that either end with a graduation or a marriage episode? I just put I put a graduation episode in the middle of the series. Like, nope, I got some more stuff to tell you guys. And it was incredibly forced to put, with great power comes great responsibility, in Peter Parker's graduation speech. So, and I obviously got this from the Spider-Man game, where MJ gives Peter a peck on the cheek in their graduation photo, which is impossible to do with Legos because of her hair protruding out forward and all that other stuff. And they have flat faces. They don't really have any lips. So, first time you see the new version of the Daily Bugle, because it just sucks. The old Daily Bugle was like the first thing I've ever built all by myself, and it was just stupid. It was terrible. So I redid the interior. I kept the exterior, and I didn't change the exterior until episode 29. You guys remember that scene from episode 28? When Peter's on the computer, he's doing all this research, and you see this picture of Norman Osborn, and he's surrounded by rubble and all these police officers. Well, that's when that picture takes place, right here, in this episode. You see that? I got the suit color wrong, but you get what I'm trying to do there. And you can see in this next shot, coming up pretty soon, that there we go. There's all the rubble and everything. And there's actually pieces of the set from the previous scene inside, Oscorp. So that fits well. And there's this scene where Peter Parker's like, hey, remember when Spider-Man saved your life like a year ago or something? Wouldn't that change your entire outlook on the guy? And he's just like, nope, nothing changed. And that was disappointing, considering he's just spent the first season taking a huge dump on Spider-Man. Then he saves his life, and even in a way where Captain Stacy went up to Jonah and he's like, hey, Spider-Man could save your life. And he's like, yeah, we'll see. And then he saves his life, and he doesn't change. Remember what I talked about in the previous commentary, how people sometimes just have a very difficult time changing? They have a tough time acting nice towards other people. Sometimes they're just like that, So, Peter wants, I guess he wants more money, because he's a greedy bastard, I guess. And he wants, and they have a staff photographer job open, which was mentioned by Robbie. And we get to see Eddie Brock's face for the first time, because this is not the first episode he appeared in. He appeared in episode 13. Go back and look at it. Go back and watch episode 13. It has 200,000 views. You can't miss it. That's when Eddie Brock first makes his appearance. But this is when he first makes a full-on, you see his face and everything. In that episode, you just heard his voice, and you saw the top of his head. Here, you get to see everything, and you see a different voice actor, obviously a friend of mine, playing Eddie Brock. And in this scene, it is implied that Eddie Brock sent in a portfolio of his past work with the Daily Globe. I almost said Daily Planet. I don't even know if that was the first one was right. So, Jonah, being impressed with the work that Eddie Brock has sent in, he decided to make it a little contest, like in Spider-Man 3, but of who can get pictures of the Hobgoblin, because that's more relevant than just getting pictures of Spider-Man doing anything he's already been doing for the last, forever. So they get into a little argument outside of his office. If you look back earlier in this scene, I forgot to mention this, Eddie Brock actually runs right into Ned Leeds, the Hobgoblin. Spoiler alert. And that's more of a reference to episode 13, when Eddie Brock first made his appearance, when he was interviewing Kraven the Hunter, and Ned Leeds also interviewed Kraven the Hunter. They were actually in the same space right there, and they're both villains. How crazy is that? Also, I really like the concept of showing you a little bit more of the Daily Bugle as time goes on, because I show you just the same 2 rooms in this building, but as the show goes on, I show you a bit more and a bit more of this building, and you appreciate little moments like this in that hallway, because you actually get to see more of the Daily Bugle. and I was sort of rambling. In that conversation between Robbie and Peter, Robbie said, hey, Astrotech and Oscorp are involved in the World Unity Day festival happening in Times Square, and the Hobgoblin might show up there. So you could get some shots of the Hobgoblin there. And that's sort of Robbie helping Peter out, because he's a friend. And he wants Peter to get the job, because he believes in Peter. And he thinks Peter should have the job already, and not this other guy. We don't know this guy. Peter's been working here for years, you know? So that's just me characterizing Robbie as a good guy, and Jonah and Eddie Brock is sort of an asshole. But it's really not that black and white. I mean, everyone has their own reasons for their stance on this little competition that's going on between Eddie Brock and Peter Parker. So no one is really in the right. It just depends on your perspective. Therefore, this situation can be different for every single person. And a good conversation could be going there. Not exactly like, how should we solve world hunger, or how do we stop poverty? It's more like just a small little discussion on this contest between these two characters. It's really nothing. It's really not that big of a deal. Why doesn't Robbie just tell the police that, hey, something might go down here, maybe you guys should help? What exactly are they going to do? The police are already there, and they barely was able to hold their own against the Green Goblin. He fought multiple police officers all by himself, and it wasn't even the Hobgoblin who showed up. It was the Green Goblin. Okay, let me be honest here. I mentioned the competition between Peter Parker and Eddie Brock and how there could be a good conversation going. I was sort of hinting at something that would be discussed in later episodes, or in a later episode, of whether or not Peter is really in the right here for how he handled the situation with the competition. Did Peter Parker cheat? Has Peter Parker always been cheating? That's the kind of conversation I hinted at a couple of seconds ago. So, yes, a good conversation could be had there. How far is too far? Where do you draw the line? Do you accept Peter Parker's actions because he's the good guy in every single comic book of him ever written, and Eddie Brock is the bad guy? Where do you draw the line? Who's in the right? It depends on your perspective. There is no right and wrong, because right and wrong are meaningless terms, because they differ from culture to culture and from person to person. Okay, that was a bit harsh. I should reiterate. There is no good and bad set in stone, because good and bad differs from person to person. I mean, I do have a concept of what I feel is good and what I feel is bad, but I don't really like those words. Okay, let me just say this. Torturing someone is bad. That's a set in stone good and bad statement. You would say torturing a little girl is bad. Torturing a puppy is bad. A lot of people would agree with that. But torturing Hitler, is that bad? See, that statement was just so plain and so limited that it doesn't really make that much sense. Even given your own feelings on different dictators or different people that you think should be tortured or shouldn't be tortured. And the other thing about it, some people out there actually like to be tortured. Yeah. So, once again, it differs from person to person. And who you think should be tortured also differs. So you just shouldn't say, killing people is wrong. It's killing certain people is wrong. Torturing certain people is wrong. That's expanding upon that. And from there, you can only it gets more complicated, and I don't really feel like getting into that. I don't have just one sentence to describe why Peter Parker does what he does. The best way I can describe it is with this show. With this series is the best way I can describe good and bad to you. Because it cannot just be described like, this is good, this is bad, the end. I don't believe in that. It's set in stone, it's written in the sky, written in the stars, when the planets align, la-di-da-di-da. No, I don't believe in that. Good and bad for me, the best way I can describe it is with this show. If that message gets across to you, then that's just fine. Thank you very much for listening and watching. That's the end of this That's the end of this commentary. Oh, I did not mean to get that deep in this stuff. I am so sorry. Oh my goodness. This is running over a bit long. I'm going to end it right here. Thanks for listening. Look out for more commentaries and whatnot. Thank you. Have a nice day.